All right, this is almost becoming a full-time gig here. I have another DCEU update for you guys today. And this is coming hot off the heels of a Hollywood Reporter story that was released yesterday that talks about Warner Brothers Discovery selling off Warner Brothers here in the near future. And I'm going to break down this article, and I'm going to actually pull it up, and we're going to go through it. And I'm going to show you how this is nothing other than an opinion piece. Warner Brothers Discovery is not selling off Warner Brothers. I don't believe that they have any plans to do that anytime in the future. And this is just another hit piece on the whole Hamada. They even directly talk about Hamada, and I laughed when I read this in the article, and I'll pull it up and show this to you. But first, I wanted to talk quickly about Zack Snyder being on Teen Titans Go yesterday. Now, unfortunately, I can't watch it. I don't have cable or satellite. I cut the cord many years ago. I have every streaming service known to man, but I cannot watch anything live off of something like Cartoon Network. So it might be a while before I see it. But I did see some clips, and it was nice to see this happen, and I think they're going to see some big numbers come out of it. So kudos to Zack Snyder being able to come back and do this. He has, in fact, had talks with people down there at Warner Brothers Discovery. This didn't just happen out of the blue, and things are happening behind the scenes that we don't get to see. And there's a lot of disinformation out there. Now, a lot of people on my last video that I posted yesterday got mad at me, said one day you're saying it's restored, the next day you're saying it's not. You cannot go based off of what people post as their title on their YouTube video or just on the thumbnail. So you guys know how the YouTube algorithm works. That's how you grab people's attention. Just like my thing today said, Warner Brothers is being sold. You have to put that on there to get people to watch. That's how YouTube works. They like it when people do stuff like that. It's what gets those people to actually pull it up and watch it. So unless you actually watch the video, there's a lot of ignorant comments out there, okay? And my video yesterday was actually very positive. Yes, I did get wrong the fact that Jay Oliva is not a producer. He is the storyboard artist for Zack Snyder, but he is in the know, okay? So I did get that wrong. I don't know a lot about Jay. I did read his comments, and I did, in fact, say that, Zack Snyder will come back at some point if certain conditions are met. So the door is certainly open, but that's not happening anytime soon, and I think that's all to be expected again because of his Netflix deal that is going on. All right, so let's take a look at this article. We're going to go through the whole thing, and this is just fascinating. So what we have here is Warner Brothers Discovery has bigger problems than its DC search. Ooh, I wonder what that's going to be. So it says in early August, 2 days after David Zaslav terminated his brief honeymoon with Hollywood by dumping the HBO Max film Batgirl, the Warner Brothers Discovery CEO was still sounding confident about the future of the studio's most important properties. Right there, negativity towards David Zaslav. Right there. It's just a hit piece on him. That's all that this is. I'm telling you right now, this is an opinion piece. It is not fact. I don't care how well respected Kim Masters is. This is an opinion piece. It is not fact. Okay? She goes on to say, well, this is what he said. This is what David Zaslav said. You look at Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. These are brands that are known everywhere in the world, Zaslav told investors. We have done a reset. We've restructured the business where we are going to focus, where there is going to be a team with a 10-year plan focusing just on DC. So he's investing some money and putting a whole team together, and there are a couple of people that are already in place like Abney and DeLuca that are going to focus just on the 10-year plan, focusing on DC. Now, it's interesting, he's not talking about just the movie side of this, saying they're going to have a team for 10 years. There's just a 10-year plan focusing just on DC. So he's putting a group together that's going to be around for a decade on the business side of it. But the declaration of the DC reset was premature. This is her feelings, okay? Zaslav is continuing to meet with prospective candidates to lead that effort. But surprising to no one, he has not found a Kevin Feige clone. A negotiation with producer Dan Lin became public, possibly due to a meeting that was held outdoors in plain sight because of Warner Brothers Discovery consultant Alan Horn's COVID-19 concerns, but then apparently fell apart over complications involving Lin's production nonprofit company Rideback. All right, that's true. This is the one thing that's fact, is that this meeting was held, and there were concerns because Lin wanted actually to have his foot in both camps and didn't want to give up his position over at Rideback, and that's where the problem came in. So moving on, it says, meanwhile, DC Films president Walter Hamada called his lawyers. This is what cracks me up. Right after watching Batgirl get bind and listen to Zaslav talk about the bright future under superior but unnamed leadership, he called his freaking lawyer. Boo-hoo. Walter Hamada called his lawyer. This is where we're at, people. This tells me this is another hit piece. Film co-chairman Michael DeLuca talked him into staying until Black Adam is released in October, but his exit is being negotiated. My gosh. They're trying to paint a negative picture down there, which I really don't think it's negative. They said at this point it's hard to think of any strong candidate to run a DC silo, and there are several reasons to wonder why anyone with a decent career would want the job. Again, more negativity. But now Zaslav, and this is her opinion, okay? That's her opinion. By now, and that's the writer is what I'm talking about there. By now, Zaslav has made enough moves to reveal that despite the extensive goodwill tour, he is exactly the tough boss that former Discovery insiders described when the Warner Media Discovery combination first made the news. And with CFO Gunnar Weidenfels working to slash the staggering $50 billion plus in debt. And this is the thing nobody wants to talk about or dig into. When Zaslav took this on, he had a $50 billion debt that he has to deal with, which requires somebody with strong business knowledge to fix this, okay? The company has content creators wondering publicly what happened to material that disappeared from the streamer without a word of warning, while insiders send out resumes as layoffs roll. Again, she's painting that negative picture. This is happening, but that's not a negative thing. What he's doing is he's getting rid of the cancer down there, okay? Zaslav doesn't know what he doesn't know, says one leading talent rep. Who's this leading talent rep? Okay? That's scary. And you're always going to be compared to Marvel. No, you won't. It's unfair. Just as that person says, it's unfair. And it is. Zack Snyder had something that he was totally going against what Marvel was doing, but Hamada wanted something to compare to Marvel. By the time they were being judged, it was working. It's the exact opposite at Warner. It's rough all around. Who the F would want that job? That's, again, somebody's opinion. That's one talent rep's opinion. And they don't even name the talent rep. The Marvel comparison looms large. That is the writer's opinion. Well, Feige has the advantage of being what one industry source calls both the architect and contractor of the Marvel Universe. The DC property has been through multiple iterations. No, it hasn't. We're still on the same path. It's just that Warner Brothers was trying to force its own vision on there. Its fans are passionate. Yes, they are. Sometimes to the point of toxicity. Okay, there she goes again. She's getting negative. And hardly unified. Again, I think most DC fans are unified that we want a definitive plan and we just want them to follow through with what was planned to begin with. DC is so fragmented, says one talent rep. J.J. Abrams has this one. Zack Snyder had that one. Todd Phillips had the other thing. And they're all such huge egos. Someone's opinion, okay? And again, one talent rep says one talent rep, probably the same person she's talking to. So she's not getting this from a bunch of industry insiders. This is somebody's opinion. All these issues pale next to the biggest question hovering over any top job at Warner Brothers Discovery. How long will this gig last? So now we're getting down to it. How long will this gig last? And this is the whole point of this entire article. The company is grappling with the heavy debt load and skeptical investors. One former Zaslav exec, former, meaning they're not happy, recently received a letter from a due diligence firm on behalf of an unspecified client asking for his evaluation of Zaslav's leadership style, strategic plans, and likelihood of success. They're looking for a way to take him out. That could suggest various possibilities: a potential acquirer digging around, a dissident shareholder sniffing for a weakness, a hedge fund trying to place a bet. So much uncertainty. She's taking one article or one letter that was handed to a former rep asking questions as something much bigger. Given the company's daunting challenges, it has become accepted wisdom at the highest levels of the industry that another deal waits in the wings for Warner Brothers Discovery. It's become accepted wisdom at the highest levels of the industry that another deal awaits in the wings at Warner Brothers Discovery? What? Where does she pull this from? For reasons related to the complicated structure of that merger, no negotiations can happen until April of 2024, 2 years after their acquisition. So at this stage, nothing is happening for at least 2 years. But at that point, many industry observers believe that Comcast Brian Roberts will make a long-awaited move looking to combine NBC Universal and Warner Brothers Discovery. So this isn't just about taking over Warner Brothers. This is about the whole Warner Brothers Discovery being pulled out from AT&T and going over to Comcast under NBC Universal. There's no indication that that's happening. Some industry observers believe that that's what's going to happen, but there's no definitive proof that that's going to happen. The deal would face interesting antitrust issues. Okay, so right there they admit there's going to be massive problems if they try to do that, but would give his company scale and a viable streaming service. Obviously, Peacock sucks, says one exec with knowledge of both companies. What? There are some good synergies. I'm sure Roberts is licking his chops because the Warner Brothers Discovery stock is so low, and I think that's Zaslav's endgame. Get the place sold. Okay. He believes, again, this is another executive with knowledge of both companies, so he's not part of either Warner Brothers Discovery or Peacock. This is just another, random executive, and she doesn't even say who it is, who's out there making these comments. There's no plan to have Warner Brothers sold, Warner Brothers Discovery. This is somebody's opinion that they think this is what's happening. He goes on to say, and I think that's Zaslav's endgame. Get the place sold. Roberts and NBCU CEO Jeff Shell met with Zaslav and board member John Malone during the Allen & Co. gathering in Sun Valley last July. But given the rules against plotting any combination, that was no doubt just a friendly get-together. AWBD spokesperson responds, "We are building Warner Brothers Discovery for the long term." There's no question about the long term. They're looking at a 10-year plan. That's not short term. That is long term. I don't think there's any plans to sell this off, and I'm going to talk about what this means if they do sell it off, okay? Many top industry execs are so convinced a deal will happen that some are pre-mourning an event that may never happen. She is admitting it may never happen. People feel like it's Comcast for sure, said the head of one company. It's going to be so depressing to lose another major studio after Disney bought Fox, and Warner's was the Tiffany studio. Of course, an obituary is premature. Maybe Warner's will do a deal with Comcast, maybe not. This is her opinion, okay? Everything is her opinion. So are all these comments she's getting from these people. She's not naming a single one of them. Meanwhile, Zaslav continues his quest to find a DC superhero, his quest like a Kevin Feige. But it seems possible that eventually DeLuca and Pam Abney, the ones I mentioned before, now acting head of the division, will end up running the thing by default, which may not be a bad thing. DeLuca was a comic book collector as a kid, and years ago at New Line, he made Blade and even had an Iron Man movie in development. A source says Bob Shea, the New Line chief at the time, let the option lapse, arguing that it didn't make sense because Iron Man was too heavy to fly. Mike was championing and scratching at the surface of this comic book universe long before it became the only thing that anybody is interested in seeing, says one longtime associate. Again, who is that associate? Given the importance of DC, it appears that top filmmakers operating in that world, Matt Reeves, Phillips, and Andy Muschietti, will be shielded from that sharp Weidenfeld's knife. One agent with business at the studio says DeLuca and Abney are talent-friendly, decisive, and a vast improvement from when the studio sat under AT&T and Jason Kilar. From where I sit, he says, it is night and day and effing day from before. All right, so what does this tell you? So she goes on to talk all this crap at the beginning, but then comes down at the end saying, one agent with business at the studio says DeLuca and Abney are talent-friendly, decisive, and a vast improvement. So they're admitting where they're at now is a vast improvement from when, we had Hamada running things. So let's talk about this. So I wanted to bring that article up and talk about this, that there is nothing in that article that is fact other than the fact that David Zaslav did have a meeting back in July with somebody from another studio. But that does not mean they're merging. There is no proof to even show that. And here's what's going to happen if it does merge. And this is the more important point that I want to talk about. It really should not affect what's going on now. They're still putting a team together. And let's say that NBC Universal does take Warner Brothers Discovery and pulls it out from AT&T. Well, then what's going to happen is everything that's still happening is going to continue to happen. Zaslav would still be in charge of Warner Brothers Discovery. They'd still have the team in place. It is not going to affect what's happening coming up. You have all these YouTubers climbing, oh no, it's going to mess everything up again. That's not what's happening. It's very clear that David Zaslav is a businessman. What he's putting together is a definitive plan that is going to push DC forward. He said in that investor meeting that DC is their number one priority over everything else. That he understands how important this property is, and he talked about it long before the merger happened. So he is in this for the long haul. There are some big things happening behind the scenes. There's no question about that. We're going to get a lot of answers before 2 years is up. I mean, we got Constantine 2 happening, and whether you like it or not, I think he's going to be the DCEU Constantine. With them wanting to kind of streamline everything, I think that's a pretty definitive sign that they may be working towards, Justice League Dark or something more supernatural going in the future. And this is the first step in that direction. And this was spearheaded by Abney and DeLuca. So there are things happening, and they're going to continue to happen. Zaslav will continue to be in charge, whether they sell in 2 years or not. This locomotive is in motion, and we're all going to be here for the ride. There's so much negativity being thrown out there right now when all I see are positive things happening. And we've got a lot coming up and a lot more to look forward to. All right, sorry to be long-winded on this video, but my gosh, I watched a lot of videos talking about this yesterday, and they were so way far off base. This is not a bad thing. And Zaslav is definitely driving. He's the engineer of this train. He's the one who is definitely at the head of this train. He's the conductor. So he's going to remain the conductor. That isn't going to change no matter what happens. He is the president, and if someone comes in and buys it, unless they decide to completely trash everything and get rid of everybody, then he will continue to be that person. Zaslav is not going to make a deal or go forward with anything if things are that bad. And they've got 2 years to really start making a profit and show people that there can be a profit in this industry. And it's coming. We've got a lot of stuff on the horizon. All right. What are your guys' thoughts on what's going on? Leave your comments down below, and we will see you on the next video.